Hey, Greg, real quick, what sound did you make when you saw Weston's goal?
We were watching it all together. The team was down there, and it was obviously a great goal. It was good to see him. I think it's a really high-level game, though, which is fun to see. Really high tempo, good pressing, great game. But we were really excited for Weston and for the team.
Thinking back to the camp in Europe last month, have you taken the current group through those two games and through the examples of the kinds of play you want to see from this team? Have you used those two games against Wales and Panama as teaching tools for the group that you have now? And who is analogous, or what patterns or partnerships have emerged that might be analogous to some of the good stuff that you saw against Wales and Panama?
I think with the process of this group, it's continuing to move them along in a similar direction. So when you think about January camp, we started to high press with our three in midfield and three up top. We continued that on in Wales and Panama, and it's something we're going to continue on now in this game here. So it was important to use some footage of that, use some footage of training, use some footage of the game to show exactly how we do it, and then we've been working on it. So it's been good. It's been a really good week. The guys have been working really hard, and you can see they're excited to be able to play the game.
Next, we'll go to Jeff Carlisle from ESPN FC.
Hey, Greg. I know when you first got to camp, you were excited to see Io and Daryl. Obviously, Sebastian has joined you since then. I mean, what have you seen out of your forwards this week? And has anyone kind of gotten their nose in front in terms of playing time tomorrow?
They were working hard all week. In the first part of the week, we focused on defending. After Saturday, we transitioned to our attack, and they've been doing well. Unfortunately, Daryl picked up a slight injury, so he won't be available tomorrow. And it's a shame. It's nice when guys are prepared for their first international and ready and in form, and then it's too bad that it's not gonna be able to happen. So we feel for him for sure. Regarding Io and Sebastian, Sebastian was in the last camp. He's familiar with what we're doing. Io's getting familiar with what we're doing, and they've both done a good job. You can see the finishing is sharp. The movement is good. We're excited to see them both tomorrow.
Next will be Paul Tenorio from The Athletic.
Hey, Greg. Thanks for doing this. I'm going to ask one question about the guys you have in camp and one about the guy who's not in camp just with MLS Cup on the weekend. Wonder your perspective on the center back battle. A lot of good options there. And Mark McKenzie and Aaron Long, both guys who I would imagine would be factoring into that race. What have you seen from them this week? And then on another note, with MLS Cup coming up, Jordan Morris has a chance to win his third MLS Cup, best 11 selection this season. Do you think he should look to move to Europe in the coming off season or in the coming year, and that he maybe hit the most that he can accomplish in MLS? And if he does, what type of value should a player like Jordan Morris have overseas, considering his success in the U.S. and his age?
So looking at the center backs, they've done great this week, all four of them. When you think about how we're trying to defend, a lot of space behind the back line, they're having to deal with it. It's been really interesting. They're having to go into a lot of duels, and they've been really good in that. So I think all of them have done a great job. When you look at Aaron and Mark and Walker and even Mauricio, Mauricio's a guy that has developed a lot in this last year. A lot of credit goes to Chicago for trusting him and giving him the opportunity, but they've done a good job. When I think about Jordan, the answer to your question, isn't for me to answer. It's for Jordan to answer. It's a very personal feeling. He has to think about his own career goals and where he wants to go with his career and evaluate it and think what's going to get him to that place. Major League Soccer has done a fantastic job of becoming a league of choice, becoming a league that players want to play in. And, he's a guy that opted for MLS and is doing a great job here. So his next step is going to depend on him.
Next will be Ivan Skolarsep from SBI Soccer.
Greg, wanted to ask you about two guys, Brendan Aronson and Julian Araujo. Brendan, you brought in Brendan, I believe, October of 2019, at a time when he was kind of breaking in as a starter with the Union, but didn't have the end product quite yet. He was still kind of coming along. Now, from then to now, he's obviously had an unbelievable year just in terms of growth. What do you think of how he's kind of developed and evolved in this year, and how different is he now? What do you see different in him now from when you first brought him in the first time? And as far as Araujo goes, obviously, Shilota played him as a winger at times. We saw quite a bit from his game. What have you seen from him in camp, and what do you like about him as a prospect, as a right-back prospect?
I think there was this big debate about, I think I said one time on the show with Dunny and Tony about, we're not here to develop players. That's not our role. It's the role of the club. And, I still believe that. I think there's a certain amount that we give the players. They're just not with us long enough. If you think about this year in general, this is our fourth camp all year, fourth game. So it's not enough. But what I'd say is an example of a club developing a player is Brendan Aronson. When he came into our camp in 2019, the fall of 2019, we liked what we saw, and we wanted to really see firsthand his attributes and how he could fit into what we do. And then from there, from that time point until now, it's been leaps and bounds how he's been able to develop. A lot of it is him and his mentality. He's got a fantastic mentality, but it's also Philadelphia and believing in a kid and saying, we're going to play this guy, and we believe in his attributes. We know how he can fit into what we're doing, and we've seen tremendous growth from Brendan throughout this year. I'm really excited for him this game because I think, again, this is an opportunity for Brendan to show now how he's taken his game and accelerated it, and now how it translates to the international level. So I think it's going to be a great opportunity for Brendan, and really looking forward to watching him play in this game. The second question about Julian, Julian's an example of a guy that you want on your team. He's a guy that goes out and puts everything on the line every time he's playing, and that's what we really like about him. We see him as a fullback. And we want our fullbacks attacking. We want them being aggressive. So I think he fits right into what we do. But we've been really excited about Julian. We really like his game, and we think it will translate well into what we do.
We'll go to Jonathan Tannenwald from the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Thank you, Michael. Hi, Greg. Thanks, as always, for taking the time. You have a lot of players in this camp who are drawing significant interest from European teams, and you have one in Brendan, obviously, who's in this sort of interregnum period before he goes over. And I wonder whether you offer advice to them about keeping their heads on the ground and how to handle when their names are in the European papers and the rumors all the time and all that stuff, and what you see with some of that.
It's funny because soccer is a day-to-day business, and that's what I can tell them is that don't believe everything you read, and just keep working. I think that once you get caught up in that, I think that's when, soccer has a way of coming back around. It's about putting in the work in, it's about the process, it's about the effort, and it's about sustaining that effort. It's not easy to do, but that's what it really takes to be successful. For these guys, that's what I talk to them about is focus on getting better today. Make the most out of today, seize the moment, and the rest will come. You don't have to worry about that.
Next will be Paul Kennedy from Soccer America.
Thanks, Greg, for doing this. With MLS playoffs about to wrap up, can you look and say any players that have impressed you in the playoffs, and speak a little bit about the success of the crew, for which I think 7 of the stars are guys you had there, plus your son Sebastian's on the team.
He's the difference maker.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so happy for the crew. I'm so happy for the city of Columbus. Obviously the organization means so much to me. I think Caleb Porter's done a fantastic job of taking what was there and putting his personal touch on it. Every coach needs to have the team reflect his personality. So it's really great to see. The pieces they've added have made the team better, stronger, and now they're competing for a championship. When I think about Mafre Stadium, to me it symbolizes, the bet that MLS made on soccer. And, a long time ago, an owner said we're going to have a soccer-specific stadium. and MLS went all in on soccer, and you see what's followed. We're here at Inter Miami. If you guys could see this facility, I mean, soccer's arrived in America when you see facilities like this. So, I'm really just, it's going to be a proud moment for the city of Columbus. I'm really looking forward to the game. When you look at the playoffs, man, it's been exciting. That game yesterday with Seattle and Minnesota, unbelievable game, unbelievable determination from Seattle, really showing, the marks of a champion, of a former champion. You can see that pedigree in their play. And you feel for Minnesota because Adrian's done a great job with his team, really developing his group. Chase Gasper looks good. Ethan Finley had a good game. Reynoso was really strong throughout the whole playoffs. It's been really fun to watch these stars emerge. And when you think about the young talent that's in the league right now, it's really exciting. And then finally, when you look at New England, Bruce had that team, playing to their strengths and really effective and really successful. And that's, those things are great to see.
We will go to Nicholas Mendola from NBC Sports.
Yeah, thank you. Greg, I wanted to ask you, the last time we spoke, or the last time you spoke to us, one of the last times was when Jesse Marsch got a big result and was alive to face Diego Simeone. You've obviously had tremendous success. Yesterday, in a teleconference, your old friend Marcel Schaefer praised you and the job you're doing, even tabbed you for potentially one day after this project maybe going to the Bundesliga. Can you just talk about the impression that you've gathered about American coaches and how it's grown since you first went abroad?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, a lot of credit goes to Bob Bradley for what he did. Having success, it really takes success to help that, to help that reputation flourish. Jesse's doing a fantastic job, really managing that group well. They're in contention again to go to the next stage of the Champions League or potentially stay in the Europa League, which is a big accomplishment. And what I'd say is it all starts with Major League Soccer and the opportunity that coaches are given to succeed. It's a great league to coach in because it's really difficult. I think if you can make it in Major League Soccer, you can make it anywhere because it's that tough with all the parity. And there's not much separation between teams. So if you can have a consistent team that's making the playoffs and winning, you're doing a heck of a job. And, Brian Schmetzer up in Seattle, man, what a job he's doing to have his group always there at the last moment. So, I think that, it's Europe will be an option for more American coaches. From the coach from Stuttgart is a guy that Pellegrini is a guy that I've spoke to often, and he's doing a good job. So another American coach, they're out there, and I think it's just a matter of time.
Next will be Ryan Talmadge from Goal.com.
Hey, Greg, just obviously the way this year's worked out, you've obviously basically been managing two different national teams. And that
three different teams.
Yeah, a bunch of different teams with little cohesion in between. Yep. And obviously you had a group last month and you bring in basically an entirely new group this month other than two guys. What has that process been like for you trying to build some sort of continuity and how do things change from camp to camp being that there's so little continuation?
It's really fun. It's a really big challenge for us. If you think about just having to work with guys and then put a product on the field that the fans will appreciate and the guys are proud of, it's work. But, there's no better group of guys to work with than the group that I'm working with. And I mean that seriously. When we get in camp, these guys just push and they focus and they work really hard and they're open. And, it's such a good group to work with. And that's why it's a fun challenge. When you're having to reteach things to a totally new set of players, with 10 days turnover, that's what's fun about this job. And, we really enjoy it. We have a fantastic technical staff, great staff supporting us with medical and sports science, and it's been a fun year in that sense.
We have time for two more for Greg. One will be Patrick Mccraney.
Greg, thanks for doing this. I wanted to ask about a couple of guys from the Chicago Fire, Mauricio Pineda, you touched on a little bit earlier, and then Georgi Mihailovic. What have you seen from them this week? What areas do you like their game, and where would you like to see them grow?
One thing that's clear with Mauricio, I got to see him in college a lot because he went to North Carolina, and he's grown tremendously throughout this last year and a half, and he's really improved his game. I think he had a really solid rookie season and did a great job. Very technical, good on the ball, and he's a competitor. So it's really good to see him live in training. Georgie we're familiar with. We worked with him in the Gold Cup, in the January camp of 2019. So he's been around. Georgie's I think, the type of player that he's as good as he sets his mind to, because he has fantastic talent, and it's more about him just applying this talent. He's a really a player with real high potential, and it's always fun to work with Georgie.
Our last question for Gregg will come from Sam Steshkel from The Athletic.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Gregg, for taking the time to do this. You touched on this a little bit a couple moments ago, but I'm curious your thoughts. Over the last 10 or so years in MLS, there have been an increasing number of international coaches and GMs that have come into the league. But when you look at the results and you look at the finals, they're pretty dominated by Americans or guys that have been in MLS for their entire careers. What do you put that down to?
Well, it's never easy being a foreign coach, in a league. It's a challenge, and I think it's the mindset, it's the preparation. I think it's having a certain amount of respect for the league and what the quality of the league is. It's knowing the player pool is really important. And then, it comes down to reaching the group that you're working with. And, I think that's a challenge for domestic and foreign coaches. It's just, you have to, as a coach, you have to really, be able to connect with your group to get the most out of them. And, MLS is a difficult league. I've said it before. It's not like other leagues where you have, really unbalanced in these leagues. MLS is really balanced. If you're not prepared, if you don't have this group fighting for each other, it's going to be tough to win games.